Hello, lovey, and welcome to Angels Don't Lie. This is a podcast where you'll learn to recognize your spiritual gifts, discern God's guidance, trust in what you're receiving, and discover the profound ways heaven is already speaking to you. I'm Jeannie Street, your host, and I can't wait to lean in to these episodes with you.
Don't lie. Angels don't lie. Angels don't lie. Angels don't lie. Angels don't lie.
Hello, my love. Welcome to Angels Don't Lie. I'm your host, Jeannie Street, and I'm so excited to get into this conversation with you today. We are going to talk all about the pause in receiving, the pause in you receiving that message and going a little deeper. So look, I know that you are receiving. You can't not receive. You were built that way. You have found yourself here because you are a healer. You're able to receive messages from heaven and from earth, and you are a channel. So I'm going to talk further about this in the episodes to come. But for today, I wanted to share a couple of client stories with you of how I have helped women use their gifts and awaken, go into a deepening of what is they already experiencing. And again, this is called the pause. And it's something that I really lean into like hardcore inside of my program, Angel Healer Training, because when we are working with energy, it can move really quickly, right? It's like I said, it's not like you're not getting the messages and it's not like you're not receiving, but sometimes there's the doubt. And most of the time there's a questioning or a flow that's happening within you because it's familiar to turn to, hey, is that real? To question if it's coming in, like, what does this mean? It's common for women to push it aside, to even deny it. So I was working with a client recently, and her gifts are like so beautiful and so amazing. And she had been at her aunt's bedside. Her aunt was getting ready to transition and pass. And what she was recognizing was her soul was in distress. Her body was in distress. She could tell by not only the energy in the room that she didn't want to leave, but also in her knowing. But what she didn't know was why she was sharing personal stories with her aunt instead of consoling her. What she didn't understand was how God was using her in that moment. And so she walked away with one, I knew that her passing was going to be hard and challenging. Two, I knew that, in her words, I knew that I was telling my aunt all this personal stuff and it felt really bad, like I wasn't there for her. And then what happened is my client met up with her aunt's daughter, her cousin. And so they had a conversation, and the daughter confirmed what my client had experienced in her own body, which was her mom. Her transition was really hard, that she clenched on, she looked like she was in a lot of pain, it didn't go smoothly, and they actually had a fight. Her and her mother, the aunt and the daughter, had a fight before she passed away. And so my client and I sat down, and she was like, look, I just feel really terrible. One, I want to make sure my aunt is okay, that she's not struggling still. She's given me a sign. I know she's crossed over. I know it's her. But what I don't know are those final moments that she had on earth. Why were they so tumultuous? Why were they so hard? And I knew it was going to happen. And so I'm like totally reminded by my own experiences and experiences I've helped other women walk through, which is when we're in that experience of the knowing, right? You have that understanding that something is going to happen, and then you aren't sure what to do about it. And instead of the pause, you turn to self-reflection, and typically, like my client did, into guilt or shame. to a judgment of self, like I didn't do the right thing. So here's where the great pause can come in and help expand what you're getting in the moment. So as we leaned into our session, I asked specific questions. When did you get the information that her passing was going to be difficult? She said, I knew it all along before I even got there. Great. So you had the knowing. And she goes, yes, that's how I would describe it, as just a knowing. I said, right. The knowing is the gift from God. The knowing is God giving us, throwing us a bone. He's saying, hey, here's what's happening. And because your body is open and receptive in so many beautiful ways, you're receiving that information, but you're running away from it. And the only reason we run away from it instead of pause and go in is because it's habit. We learned in our childhood to read the energy, receive the information, and then act accordingly. We can get into this in a bigger conversation, but to understand that as a healer, you came in with the ability to sense both heavenly energy and earthly energy. You've come in wired to read earth, which we call psychic energy, and to sense heaven, which we call mediumship. But those are simplified words for what's happening inside of your body. When you are receiving psychically, you're plugged in to the earth around you, to the scenes around you, and you're receiving information. That's a hit in your system. You will act like your child self did when things are familiar. So if something's uncomfortable, you will self-reflect, go into, I'm doing something wrong. I'm needing to adjust myself. You will source from more earth energy. When we understand that what's actually happening is the knowing's coming in, you have a piece of information that God's giving you, and you're not pausing. Instead, you're going into the field. You're like, I know what's happening. I don't know how I know it's happening, but I know it's happening. It becomes about the I instead of the we. When we take that information and we have a pause and we're like, oh, okay, so this is going to be hard. What will you have me do with this information? We turn that connection back to God. We start resourcing with heaven instead of resourcing in our brain. This is where the pause becomes a medicine, because in that space, in that pause, is where you're going to be led instead of leading the way and not understanding your role. So with my client who had entered that room knowing that the suffering was going to happen and speaking about things in her life, she walked away with guilt. What really happened from my perspective when I tapped into heaven and I asked is, she needed the aunt needed the light that my friend client had. She needed that love to talk, to move her through transitioning. She needed lightness to move the energy off of her and off of the, I'll say, the relationship issues she was having with her children, which is why she was in turmoil within her being. And so she got exactly what she needed, which was light-hearted conversation, love. She got a reflection on a relationship that she felt and knew she was safe with. And as she crossed over with her children in the room and having a hard experience, that wasn't due to anything other than her soul's journey. Her soul had a journey, right? Karmic imprints, things she hadn't healed in this lifetime, things that her children in their soul contracts have chosen to take and to heal. This is the hard thing about when we forget that we have contracts, that we have soul contracts with the people we're in relationship with, the people that are our family members, that we might have difficulties with. Our contract is to come to a neutral place. Healing sometimes looks like being having to step away. Sometimes it looks like being able to be with that loved one and say the hard things. As long as we are in that neutral zone where we're not defensive and angry and judgmental, but we're holding love, we're holding that space. But that's in a perfect world, and it doesn't happen, because when we are hurt, when a parent is not a good parent, when children have been hurt and they grow up and then they have to see their parent suffer, it brings the angst out. It brings the uncomfortableness out. It brings up so many emotions. And this is typically why we'll find a lot of fight or flight stuff going on when somebody's ready to transition and those relationships haven't been healed. But let's circle back now to the healer role. The role of you who you're receiving information, maybe daily, maybe randomly, maybe it's not so random. Maybe you're receiving messages in your work and you want to expand upon what you're receiving. You want to deepen that. So like I said to my client, right? You can't not be you. You're not going to not receive. But we can have some guideposts. We can have our heavenly team, our angels and our guides support us in their work. So my guidepost and what I teach in all of my programs is stepping out of bed with only that which is of God can come to me. This is how I mark my day, and it's how I end my day. I let Spirit know who I work with, how I communicate, that I am not the woman that's going to work with dark energy. I'm going to work with souls in heaven, and I'm going to work for God. That's my job. So I let energy know who I am, and I also let my team know when I'm on duty, because I am not going to receive information when I'm off duty. The only time I will receive something is when God wants me to know or when God wants me to pray for someone. So this is the next thing I worked with my client with, and I really wanted to lean in with this with you, because the importance of getting some information isn't about running to the source to give them the message. It's in discernment. It's in the pause. It's asking, what do you want me to do with this? How do you want me to proceed? This is a deepening of your relationship with the divine, with source, with God, with your angels and your guides. So that you don't make a move based on your own understanding. You make that next move with the understanding that God has placed within you.